2016, my son Lee began training in classical Chinese dance at his middle school in Orange County, New York. This training inspired him to audition for a scholarship at Petition Academy of the Arts with the hope of one day touring with Shen Yun, and he was able to achieve that in a few years. He is now a junior in Petition College and enrolled in the practicum program with Shen Yun. So studying classical Chinese dance, culture and language is a challenge, but it was a great challenge. Physically, creatively, mentally, it has given him new ways to express himself, to tell stories, to communicate. It has gotten him off the computer that he had been hunched over before, like many teenage boys these days. And it not only gave him an amazing posture and physical self-awareness, but also newfound confidence, grit, self-discipline, and a healthy attitude toward life that will benefit him forever. What more could any parent hope for? Then, after having the chance to tour with Shen Yun and be mentored by some of the world's leading figures in this field, he's had an opportunity that most performing artists of any age can only dream of, and that is to take their art and to present it to willing audiences on the best stages of the world, like here tonight, Lincoln Center. My husband and I are often in amazement at the experience he has gained with Shen Yun and what he and his fellow artists have been able to achieve. I know from my own experience and from watching audience reviews that the impact Shen Yun has does not last just one night in the theatre. Shen Yun's message of hope touches people's hearts and souls. It inspires kindness and humanity, goodness and beauty. I regularly see people, audience members, with tears of joy or smiles of awe. And so many say that it has changed their lives for the better. And I read last year, Shen Yun had more than 1 million audience members. That's 1 million people who took home Shen Yun's positive message and put a touch of that positivity into their lives, their families, their relationships, their communities. So many people say they want to change the world and make the world a better place. But how many actually do it? How many have such a tangible, meaningful impact as Shen Yun does? I know I speak for many parents when I say that we are so proud that our kids not only want to make the world a better place, but they're actually willing to do it. They're willing to put in the effort and choose to work with such an outstanding organisation that actually makes it happen. But it's not easy for anyone to change the world, is it? Now, I want to speak on behalf of other parents and concerned community members. We have been horrified, truly, to see the gross distortions and false narratives about Shen Yun in mainstream media over the past year. It's really scary. As much as we know the serious safety concerns that Shen Yun takes with every tour, we cannot help but be concerned about their safety when we see Beijing's ability to manipulate and control our society like this. So in the wake of these public attacks against Shen Yun, the Shen Yun community of parents, students and staff created a petition in which we call upon relevant departments in the US government to protect American interests, companies and people from Beijing's control. We know that this is a case of attacking Shen Yun now, and if we don't address the problem now, other groups will be the next target. So today, this is the first time we are actually unveiling the results of this petition to the public. In this petition, we call for, 1, the Department of Justice to investigate sources of this foreign malign influence campaign and bring to justice those behind these attacks. 2, we call for Congress and the President to take action to protect American interests, companies and people from CCP malign influence operations. These actions need to be robust and savvy enough to effectively protect Americans while preserving our freedoms and liberty. And 3, we call upon the American media to act responsively, prioritizing transparency of sources with Beijing ties and true objectivity over the allure of attention-grabbing stories and the furthering of any ideological agenda. So with this petition, over 1,550 people signed this. 634 are current dancers, musicians, and production staff. 142 former dancers and musicians. 791 family members, mostly parents just like me. Some of them added comments to the petition when they signed, which was optional, not required. And Lee will share some of those comments with you now and some of his experience in relation to them.
This is an excerpt from one of the comments written by a person who signed the petition. The revival of my heritage, the stability of my livelihood, and the freedom to believe in my spiritual faith. In America, these are the things that I've always counted on the United States Constitution to protect. And yet, today, these are precisely the things that are at stake. Beginning with the CCP's attempts to sabotage the company that I am with, it is terrible to think that something like this could even take place on American soil. Before I joined Petition College, I thought it was impossible for the CCP to infiltrate the United States, and that all of us were under the protection of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. However, this all changed when I met a professor from Petition College who was beaten unconscious and had his house ransacked by CCP-hired thugs. The most shocking thing was that this happened on American soil. This is Dr. Peter Lee, after being brutally beaten by 3 thugs in his own home in Atlanta, Georgia. This showed me that even in the US, wherever you may be, even in the privacy and comfort of your own home, the CCP can attack you. And since these attacks have happened before, we know that the threats that we face today are very much real. This is another quote from a person that signed the petition. I was lucky to have escaped communist China, but now the same government is trying to exert control into America. Growing up in the West, I've been fortunate to be raised by 2 loving parents, something that I would have taken for granted. But after joining Petition College and joining the practicum program, I've come to know many fellow dancers and artists who have not been half as fortunate as me. One of my fellow dancers, Stephen Wang, was just a young boy when both of his parents were arrested and detained for practicing the Falun Dafa meditation in China. For years, Stephen and his sisters could never see both their parents together, because as soon as one of them was released, the other would be detained again. Later, Stephen finally got the opportunity to flee China and join Shen Yun, where he could use his talent in dance to tell his story and show the world the atrocities of the CCP, all in hope that one day his family would be freed. Soon after arriving in America, Stephen's dad did get fully released. But before Stephen could find out, his father passed away from the damage done to his body from a decade of maltreatment and torture by the authorities. Stephen never got the chance to see his dad before he died, and his mom is still suffering persecution there today. If Stephen tried to visit her in China, he would no doubt be immediately arrested, just like any of us would be. How crazy is it that we still can't perform classical Chinese dance and tell these true stories in China today? Stephen Wang is only one of many Shen Yun artists and staff members who have personally experienced the brutality of the CCP. Every day I'm honored to be surrounded by fellow artists who are using their artistic excellence to stand up to the CCP's malicious acts to save their friends and family. It takes a lot of courage for them to do that, knowing that they have family in China. I'm inspired by the courage I see in my fellow dancers and teachers who are able to push forward through any difficulty and dedicate themselves to Shen Yun's mission to revive traditional Chinese culture. This is the Shen Yun I have come to know and am proud to be a part of. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alison Chen, and I'm a former dancer with Shen Yun Performing Arts. I performed with the company from 2007 to 2015 as a student performer on practicum. So I was a student at Petition Academy of the Arts as well as Petition College. And after I stopped performing with Shen Yun, I transitioned to a teaching position, and I've been teaching dance in upstate New York since 2016. My newest job is actually a mother to a newborn baby, so that's the hardest challenge I've been facing currently. As we've been listening to Kay and Lee share about the petition, this was something that I also signed as well back in August. I felt that a lot of the negative media attacks were pretty outrageous, and I mostly signed because my husband and my sister, they're also currently still touring with Shen Yun, so I'm also concerned for their safety as well. So every few days I do check up on their safety. My husband's currently performing in France, my sister's in Canada, and it really hits home when you think that potentially some danger could happen to them. And also we mostly, my family does agree that this is not the Shen Yun that we know. So I think a lot of people don't realize that Shen Yun actually gives so many great opportunities to talented young people. And because I was given this opportunity to tour with the company from a young age, I built up a very, very strong work ethic. And I really learned that dedication pays off. I think a lot of people overlook that nowadays, and they only try to highlight and distort people's experiences at Shen Yun to pull it off as something negative, but we actually experienced way more positive things while performing with the company. So I came to Shen Yun back in the early days when the company just formed, back in 2007. So I came in 2007 when I was just a teenager, and this was something that I really wanted to do. My parents, they weren't sure if I could actually go dance professionally. They had their doubts, but I actually really, really wanted to come. So I convinced them to give me a chance to audition, and to their surprise, I made it. And that's when I joined Petition Academy of the Arts as a dance student. And subsequently, because I was able to work on my skills, that I was given the opportunity to tour with the company. But I had to consistently keep that up, because if I wasn't good enough, I wouldn't be able to continue touring with the company on practicum. And also because of my doubtful parents, I was a bit of a rebel. I tried to prove them wrong, because they would actually call me every few months or so, and they would ask me, "Do you want to come home? How about you come home to California? You can go study hard and go apply for Stanford, apply for one of the UCs." But that really wasn't my calling. I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to live the life and experience the life of a professional dancer, if I could. So I kept pushing through. That's why I worked really, really hard on my dancing skills, and they were very surprised that I actually continued to study in Feitian College as a dancer, and eventually I even got my master's degree in dance. So all of that was because I saw how my classmates were all working really hard. I saw the professional dancers and their dedication to the craft, and that's really what pushed me forward. And I wanted to be a part of that as well. So needless to say, I think the company culture of Shen Yun has really influenced my work ethic and my personality today. So even starting from a young age, we started to build a very strong sense of responsibility. When we were touring with the company, we always were taught to be on time. We were always told to do our best if we could. And after every show, we would actually summarize how every performance went so that we could be accountable for our mistakes, not to belittle us, but actually so that we could do better for the next performance. And because we were in this group environment, we worked as a team. So we were always practicing how to communicate with each other and how to solve problems. And I think for a teenager, back when I was a teenager, I was able to put that into practice versus just hearing the theory behind this. So we got to do this on a daily basis. And above all, I think being a part of the company, we really learned not to back down when faced with challenges. So after being with Shen Yun for 8 years, I think that's something that mentality and that work ethic has really stuck with me. After I transitioned to become a teacher in 2016, I think that's something that I've really kept with me. So I transitioned from being a dance teacher to a professor, and now I'm currently the chair of the dance department at Fei Tian College at Middletown, a branch campus of Fei Tian College. So even though the environment has changed for me, I've kept that mentality this whole time. And because that's how I was brought up. So it's very natural for me to, keep that. And now, even now, with my new role as a mother, there are actually a lot of challenges that I face every single day. I would argue this is probably the hardest job that I've ever done. But I learned actually from Shen Yun that if you persevere, good things will come, as long as you keep going. So I'm sure many of my fellow artists, fellow dancers and musicians, they also feel the same way. A lot of them, when I see them on stage now, I'm pretty sure a lot of them work harder than I did back when I was young. So we do what we do because we really love our craft. We love our work. We love what we do. And I think that's the real spirit behind all the Shen Yun dancers and musicians. That's what drives us. And that's why we're willing to push ourselves through all these different challenges. So that's just a little bit of my experience. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Peter Huang, and I'm currently a principal dancer with Shen Yun Performing Arts. I'm not a greatest speaker, so please bear with me. So for me as an artist, to see the picture that some of the media has painted Shen Yun, the accusations that we have a toxic work environment or that our training is abusive, to me personally, that's straight, that's just insulting, One of the things that I've learned from Shen Yun is the pursuit of excellence. I believe that in order to achieve excellence, no matter what field, sacrifices need to be made. And in the end, if you want to choose to go through with it, that's completely up to you. And in Shen Yun, that's exactly the same. Many people talk about the work ethic of the Navy SEALs or the Olympic athletes, and nobody says that their training is abusive. Actually 2 months ago, we were performing in Rome, and we had a chance to visit the Sistine Chapel. And I learned then that Michelangelo, he spent years, often in the dark, painting that ceiling. And after he was done, he developed problems to his eyes, his neck, and his back. And that truly inspired me because I think he was willing to sacrifice all that. He chose that path. And even to this day, his works of art inspire and uplift millions of people around the world. And that to me is an inspiration. Our training, the training in Shen Yun, is not comparable to what I just said, like the Navy SEALs or the Olympic athletes. But it is tough. It is both demanding physically and mentally, and I understand that it is not for everyone. And but this is the path that we chose, and we're okay with it. And granted, along the way there will be some injuries, like Lee has gone through. And actually last year I started feeling pain in my Achilles, and I grew up a Kobe Bryant fan, so I really wanted to tough it out, But in the end, when my company manager found out, she said that I should rest, that to view my career as a marathon and not a sprint. And I really appreciate that. And I still think back to when Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles. He walked off the court by himself, walked back on, made 2 free throws, and then walked off again. And then that mentality, that dedication, it still inspires me to this day. But I also understand that as a performer, we all have a responsibility to our audience. For me to perform while injured, that would be very irresponsible, because we want to bring what's our best to the audience. And the accusations that Shen Yun is forcing its performers to perform while injured, I think that's just not true. Because if you think logically, which performing arts company could thrive if it was forcing its performers to perform while injured? That just doesn't make sense. And then, the success that Shen has had over the years. We've grown from 1 company to 8 companies. And the positive reviews that we've received all over the world is a testament to what Shen is doing, that Shen is on the right path. Actually, one of the most important lessons that I've learned was from my academic teacher, who was actually sitting right there. I remember he taught us that the purpose of art throughout the ages is not to entertain, it's more to educate, uplift, and to glorify the divine. And I truly believe that what Shen is doing today is just that, to uplift people and bring them closer to the gods. And today, when I see Shen being attacked from all directions, from the Western media, it really saddens me, and I hope that we can all change that narrative. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Chen, and I'm a principal violist with Shen Yun Performing Arts. After being with Shen Yun for almost 14 years, I often get asked why I wanted to join Shen Yun and why I stayed with the company for so many years. Of course, there was the allure of traveling the world on practicum, performing in top venues, and achieving what many professional musicians would call the pinnacle of their career before I even graduated from college. But today, I want to share how much I've grown personally and spiritually from my experience at Shen Yun. I grew up in a mostly Caucasian city in the suburbs of Chicago as a second-generation Chinese American, so I rarely came in contact with my heritage. I remember I was actually quite embarrassed to be Chinese when I was younger, and I told my grandparents every time my friends would come over, don't cook Chinese food, don't speak Chinese, they're gonna think I'm weird or strange. I just really wanted to be American. And then I watched Shen Yun. And to see my culture so beautifully expressed on stage, from the music to the stories, it gave me a sense of pride. It made me feel like Chinese culture wasn't just about eating dumplings on Chinese New Year. It depicted China as a place with 5,000 years of glorious history. When I heard that Shen Yun was filled with the people just like me who shared the same faith, joining Shen Yun became my new dream. After coming to Petition and Shen Yun, I found myself surrounded by traditional culture. The tales from ancient China that we learned in class always had an important moral lesson, and these stories of courage and loyalty helped shape my character and dispelled my previous rejection of my heritage, replacing it with deep appreciation. But the most important reason why joining Shen Yun has changed me for the better is because of my spiritual practice, Falun Dafa. The community at Shen Yun is built on the basis of faith. Everyone is not only striving for excellence, but also leading their lives by the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. In this environment, I feel encouraged to become a better person. But as I am perfecting my craft and working on my character, sometimes it's easy to overlook the fact that people in China who share the same faith as me are being persecuted. Growing up in the West, the persecution always felt a bit distant because nothing actually happened to me personally. But a few years back, during a show in Holland, it was intermission, and a Chinese lady came up to the pit. And I don't remember exactly what the acknowledgement was, but she acknowledged our erhu player at the time. And in that look, there was a lot of understanding, and there was a lot of meaning in that, in the acknowledgement they shared. So out of curiosity, I asked her who the lady was. And she responded, "We were in the same labor camp together." In that moment, the weight of our mission felt very real. We weren't just here to entertain. We have a mission of reviving Chinese culture and sharing the stories of practitioners in China whose voices cannot be heard. For someone who feels strongly about this mission, I was deeply hurt when I heard about the bomb threats towards our company. As a performing arts group, our mission to revive traditional Chinese culture and raise awareness about the persecution of Falun Dafa came from a place of faith and compassion. To see people go as far as endangering the well-being of our community, our families, and even our audience members is egregious. It gives me more motivation to give the best to our audience members, even when we're being attacked in the most hurtful way. I joined Shen Yun to connect with my roots, but I stayed because Shen Yun changed me for the better and has given my life purpose. For me, Shen Yun is not just a show or a workplace. Shen Yun is my home. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Before we open up the questions, I want to thank especially the performers who have a show tonight. Setup days, for those in performing arts world, know it's very stressful. There's a lot going on. It's a very hectic schedule. But we appreciate your time. We know it's a very important conversation. The artists that are here today, the ones that you'll see performing with such joy, they're among the best in the world at what they do. And their dedication, as you heard, comes from a sense of purpose. Performing to save a lost culture, a world treasure from the brink of extinction, performing to speak up for those who have no voice in China, and performing to bring a message of hope and courage and faith. Our calls to action from the petition, to reiterate, we are asking for the Department of Justice to investigate the sources of the foreign malign influence, the transnational repression, including the bomb threats, including the weaponization of social media and trying to influence mainstream media and the government with lawfare. Second, asking Congress and the President to take action to protect American people, interests, and companies and freedoms from the CCP's influence here in America, and for the American media to act responsibly with transparency and integrity when covering these issues and other issues in China. So thank you again for being here. We'll now open for questions for me or for the panel.